guys were awake.
So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, much better. So welcome to our lovely TSS with this lovely spring day outside. There's a lot of snow. So this month we are gonna talk about God's law. This month and next month because there are many laws that we need to learn. And Marcio will start talking about divine law. And after that, today's a special day. As you guys know, we have our lunch and learn that our lovely Denise and Fabio prepared for us. But hang tight, he will speak very fast so we can eat. And to start, Joy is going to do our initial reading and prayer.
Thank you, Raquel. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're reading a very short message to the book Happy Life. It was psychographed by Divaldo Pereira Franco from the Spirit Joana de Angelis. It's short little messages that we can read as we start our day. And this one is called, it's the first one of this section, starts with greet your day with a prayer of gratitude. You are alive. While there is life, the opportunities to grow and to be happy multiply. Each day is a new blessing from God, a proof of His love to you. As the hours pass, cultivate optimism and well-being. So let's follow Divaldo's and Joana de Angelis' recommendation. Let's start, I'm sure you all started before, but let's start our work here with a prayer of gratitude. And of course, we pray to God, our Creator, for bringing us into existence, for loving us, for protecting us, and for giving us the means, the opportunities, and desire to continuously improve, to do away with our imperfections, so at each day we become a little bit closer to Him. Let us pray to Jesus Christ, our teacher, our master, who brought us all the lessons we need to achieve these goals. Let us be thankful for all of the spirits who help us in our daily lives, who protect this house and inspire our work. But today, I also want you to pray to yourself, each one of us. Let's pray to ourselves that we can be strong, that we can open our hearts and our mind to the lessons that will come before us around the divine laws. And so be it.
All right, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to be here again to talk about the divine laws. And the divine law is all based on the Spirit's book, and it's there. There is an entire chapter only about it, right? And the divine law is the first chapter. When you're reading the entire book, after that it will come with the 10 God laws that Kardec put together for us. So, but before we start talking about the divine law, let's remember what the law is, right? Law is something that describes the principles, describe the nature of things and how all of those things get together, right? Our society has a number of laws. Different countries have their own laws that all to govern, to put order in things, right? In life, in our society. And then we have what is known as the nature law, and in the Spirit's book, it's the chapter is called the nature law, the nature or divine law, right? Because Kardec put those two laws as one single thing. Not Kardec, the Spirits tell us that the two laws are the same thing. But what is the nature law is? So I'm gonna read what Leo Strauss in 1969, how he defined it in the International Encyclopedia of the Social Science. So he says, natural law is a philosophy that certain rights or values are inherent by virtue of human nature, and universally cognizable through human reason. Historically, natural law refers to the use of reason to analyze both social and personal human nature to deduce binding rules of the moral behavior. The law of nature, being determined by nature, is universal. So this law is also, the common sense that we all have, right? That we all say, this is the common sense. Everybody should know. And that is exactly what people understand by natural law. That is inside of us. We all have it, right? So Kardec brings that to the spirits and asks to them, what is meant by natural law? And the spirits answer, natural law is the law of God. It is the only law that is truly necessary for human beings to be happy. It shows them what they should or should not do, and they only suffer misfortune when they depart from it. So I highlight there that it's the only law that is truly necessary for human beings to be happy. Every other law that we have is a way for us to understand a little bit that law, right? And it's the only law that is necessary for us to be happy, because these law have everything that we need to conduct our moral, to drive our moral conduct, right? So the next question, on the question 617 on the spirit books, Kardec asked the spirits what exactly it is encompassed in that, and the spirit says that God is the author of everything, right? Everything that we have in earth, everything, each one of us is a God creation, right? So while the scientists are studying the matter, things that happen in our earth as a material thing, we as individuals should be studying the laws of the soul. So that is the moral. That is what is inside the natural law that we all know. It's part of each one of us, right? So we need to know that, because that's what makes us happy. But why is that so important? Why does this how this law can serve to us as human beings, right? And later in the spirits book, Kardec have a questions to the spirits, and they answer that law is helping us to distinguish what is good from bad, right? So to be happy, as this natural law is suggesting us, we need to distinguish what is good, what is bad, right? And every time that we have things going in the way that we think there is the right way to do, what happened to us? We are happy, right? If it's not going against our principles, against what we believe is the right thing, we start to be unhappy. So the law, this natural law, that is the law of God, it's nothing else that does serve us as a guide to our happiness, a guide to what is right, what is wrong, right? So one of the questions that Kardec did to the spirits, and I think it would help us if everything was right, what is exactly all this law means, what the details of in these laws, right? And when he asked the spirits whether God's law is written, the spirits answer, in the conscience. So each one, it's inside of each one of us, in our conscience, right? And he continues asking, since humans carry God's law in their conscience, why does it have to be revealed to them? And then spirits answer, they have forgot them and disregarded, but God was willing for them to remember it. So God didn't leave us alone with that notion of that law in our conscience only because we forgot them. So He provided us different spirits, different people to come and give us the message that we need, right? So in this other question, has God provided all humans the means of knowing God's law? And the Spirit's answer: all may know about it, but not all understand it. Moral persons and those who desire to examine it are the ones who understand it best. Nevertheless, all will understand it someday because such understanding is necessary for progress. So basically, we all have this knowledge, we all know, but we tend to forget it, right? And those spirits that come to help us are those that have this knowledge, this understanding, not the knowledge, but the understanding of it, right? As part of their lives, and they bring it to us as an example, right? In the Gospel according to Spiritist, there is an entire chapter, it's chapter 17, that talks about be perfect, right? What means to be perfect? And there is a item, part of that chapter that talks about the moral person. I'm gonna read very quickly the first paragraph of it that says, truly moral persons are those who practice the law of justice, love, and charity in its greatest spirit. They question their conscience about their actions. They ask themselves if they have violated this law, if they have done any evil, if they have done all good they could, if they have willingly disregarded any opportunity to be useful, if anyone might have complained about them, and finally, if they have done unto others everything they would like to have done unto themselves. So, moral persons are not perfect, right? They are all sent by God to help us, but they are not perfect. They are those that are trying to get to the perfection, right? To get to the same level as Jesus. And we should be doing that. We should be trying to become better every day. And this is the simplest way to put it. Asking ourselves, am I doing everything that I could to help others, right? To be good? Is that divine law that we mentioned before, the natural law? When we look to ourselves and we think about what we did, is that natural thinking us telling us, yes, you did the right thing, right? Because the understanding of the laws will be different according to how much we learned, right? What experiences we had, right? Although the natural law is inside of us, as we said, we tend to forget. So as we go and we learn more, for different religions, different life experiences, different people that we connect with, right? We're gonna get those experiences that can tell us, I'm doing the right thing or not, right? So God has provided those people to help us, right? And then there is another question that is, has God endowed certain individuals with the mission of revealing the divine laws? Yes, right? He sent people, so we have people there to help us to understand the divine law. And in every age, individuals have received this mission. They are right order spirits who have incarnated with the purpose of enabling humankind to progress. So I think we all can name a different people that we look to and we say, this person was really a good person, really came to help us to understand God's law. Jesus was one of them, right? We know that in the Spirit's book, there is a question that asks, what is the spirit what the person that we incarnated that we could look at as the most evolved, or the one that he really came to help us? And the Spirit said Jesus, right? Jesus was the one that came to earth as many other, but he was the one that could bring a lot of knowledge for us, a lot of understanding for us, right? And same as Jesus, we have other people. In the Old Testament, they call them the prophets, right? All the prophets were people that were sent by God to help us to understand a little bit. Later after Jesus, we have the saints. What we call saints in the Catholic Church. So those spirits that really came to help us. In Spiritism, we have those mediums like Chico Xavier that came and bring a lot of knowledge for us, right? So the characters of those true prophets are those that have that moral individuals inspired by God, and who we may recognize by their words and deeds. God does not employ a liar to teach us the truth. That is part of the question 624, right? So it's easily to recognize them by their words and their deeds. So if you have someone saying something and you truly believe that's the right thing, and you truly can live by that, that's a good prophet for you, right? Of course, we have some people there is named as prophet, and they don't say everything that is true, that is right. They sometimes deviate a little bit. We have that many different, I should say, in all the religions, we have those that in the name of God say things that is not truly the truth, right? Because of our natural position as not so elevated spirits, let's say, right? So we have all those spirits, and Jesus was the one sent to us, right? And then the Kardec asked to the spirits if with Jesus being the one who brought everything, what happened before that, right? What happened with all the knowledge that was inside of us? Is we just knew all of that through the intuition? And the spirits answered that no. They have already answered, right, the question before. Having stated that they are right in everywhere. From the remote times, all who have meditated on wisdom have been able to understand and teach these laws. Though their teachings were incomplete, they prepared the ground to receive the seed. So I'll pause there, because this is a very important thing. Through their teachings were incomplete, they prepared the ground to receive the seed. Yeah. So we're going to study in the next weeks the law of progress. And we understand that we all, as God creation, we are created simple and ignorant, right? And by that, it means that we have a lot to learn until we get to the perfection, right? God didn't create us perfect. God created us simple and ignorant. So we need to go for that. So before we got created, others has been created as well, right? Others has gone through the same experience that we have gone. So they have the knowledge. They got you, like Jesus. They got to perfection. They're closer to that. So through years, through ages, God sent different spirits to come and teach us a little bit more, right? And we continue learning and learning and learning. If you like philosophy, in the Gospel According to Spiritism, in the introduction, we have an entire series, entire chapter that talks about the Socrates and Plato doctrine that is before Christianism, is before Spiritism, and Kardec did a very good summary, showing what Plato and Socrates brought and comparing to what Jesus, and combining both things, showing that is what they brought to us was a little bit what Jesus would bring later, right? That Jesus would bring more complete all those thoughts, right? So all those spirits, the prophets, philosophers, that's different parts of the world receive different spirits, different ways of doing that, understand it, right? And that was all spirits to prepare for Jesus' teachings. And then they continue. Since the divine laws are written in book of nature, men and women are able to understand them as soon as they want to look into them. That is why the precepts of the divine laws have been proclaimed by moral person in all ages, and also why we have encountered their elements through incomplete or alternate by ignorance and superstition in the moral doctrines of cultures that have left barbarism. So later in the same Gospel according to Spiritist, chapter 24, there is a passage that talks that it's called "Do not go to the Gentiles," and that is part of the Bible, the Gospel, right? The New Testament, where Jesus tells to the apostle to don't go to the Gentiles, to really go to those Jewish people that would not really let's say happy, or not feeling that everything that they learned was enough, right? And why not go to the Gentiles? The Gentiles, it's how they name it, everyone that was not Jewish, that didn't, is a kind of following the paganism, right? So Jesus said, don't go to them. Don't go to them because they were not ready. They were not ready to receive the message. If they are still believing many different gods, if they are still living in a way that is not very material word, very material type of life, not they have not got to the learnings of one God like all of those Jewish people had, right? They were not ready, and everything have time to happen, right? So that's why Jesus at that time was saying that you do not go to them. That is very connected here, where they say incomplete or things were incomplete. The moral doctrines of all courts have left barbarism. So it's everything has time to happen. So, and we know that after Jesus disincarnated, what happened? Christianism go and get established in the center of the paganism in Rome, where everything was very was not Christian at all, right? So the apostles after that, when they were ready as well to go and talk to those people, they went there and they established and put the Christianism ready for that, right? So I want to bring back a little thing. I know that we talk a little bit in the other Sundays here, but the first thing that we should remember is the 10 Commandments, right? So this is part of the divine law. This is part of the divine law, because that was the understanding, I should say, ourselves at that time, right? Believing in reincarnation, that's where we were at that time. So at that moment, Moses brought the first understanding that we know, right? That God telling us what the divine laws are, giving us a little bit more understanding that we are all brothers and sisters, that we are all creation of the same God, and everything that we have, everything that we are, is because of God's will, right? So according to the Old Testament, Moses received this 10 Commandments from an angel. And we all know that angels are spirits, but not just spirits like us, right? They are a spirit that was chosen by God, and chosen because they were prepared, they were let's say mature enough, they understand enough the laws to come and bring a little bit more for us. So all angels are spirit, not all spirits are angels, right? That's what we need to keep in mind. And the things that we read today, like you shall not kill, or you should not steal. We know that, right? It's part of our laws, and then it's today It's part of our common sense, right? I hope everybody understand that it's a part of common sense, and it's part of us. We consider that already. But at that time, the way that people lived at that time, that was necessary. That was the first thing that they need to understand, right? So the Ten Commandments was one of the first ways for God that we can we have documented, right? That God sent to us to explain a little bit about what love is, right? And as we said, teachings would come later, and then when God sent us Jesus, right? And Jesus brought to us, he summarized those 10 commands in 2. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. That's part of Matthew chapter 22. So Jesus brought that, simplifying everything. Or maybe not that simple, right? Love God above everything, love our neighbors, what exactly that means, right? Sometimes it's hard to understand what the word love means, right? So, who are our neighbors, all of that. But he brings that, all the laws into that. It's basically teaching us about love. And then Kardec made a very interesting question to the Spirit, saying, is the entire law of God contained in Jesus' maxim of love one's neighbor? And the Spirit answers, this maxim certain reaffirms all humankind's duties towards each other, but it is necessary to show them its application, because otherwise they will neglect such duties, as they in fact do nowadays. Moreover, natural law covers all life circumstances, and this particular maxim refers to only one of its aspects. People need precise rules. General and overly vague precepts leave too many doors open to interpretation. So, Spiritism brings to us a little bit what Jesus was trying to show us, right? So the natural law, it covers every single circumstance, as the Spirit said, right? Everything that happened in our lives happened according to divine law. But we don't understand that very well, and that's why a lot of other learnings and teachings need to come for us to continue evolving. We know that Jesus used to talk about his teachings was all on parables, right? But those parables many times doesn't explain very well for us, because of many different things. The culture is different today, right? The words, the translation are different. So we need to continue evolving our studies. We need to continue trying to understand those words, bring it to the present, to our lives today. And that's why we continue need to have new prophets, new people coming and reminding us about all those laws, right? So, yes, Jesus brings what we should know and what we should use as the only law in our lives. But because we still need examples of those laws, how to act on those laws, God continues sending us those good spirits that help us, right? So, because of Jesus brought the only law that we should know, Kardec went to the spirits and asked them, since Jesus has already taught the true laws of God, of what value are the teachings given by the spirits? Do they really have anything more to teach us? So that's Kardec questioning, right? That's the good questioning that we should do every time. And the spirits come and ask and answer him. Jesus' teachings were frequently allegorical and in the form of the parable because he spoke according to his time and place. But today, the truth must be intelligible for all. Thus, it's necessary to explain God's laws more fully and elaborate on them because there are few who understand them and still fewer who actually practice them. So we already talked about the time, right, and place, but this final piece here, still fewer who actually practice them. We can understand everything, right? We can know everything that is in the Bible. We can know everything that is in the Spirit's book. We can know everything that is in Andrea Louis' book, the Spirit's book. Any book, right? But the thing is, are we practicing it? Are we really changing our lives? So the teachings of the spirits must be very clear to us, right? Must be very direct. We are ready for those, right? If we are not ready, we are still receiving messages in like parables, right? But we are ready for a more honest conversation, right? And that's why these days we have so many spirits communications, right? So in the past it was very limited, small group of people really communicating, and today with spiritism, we're making this something that should be in everyone's life, right? Every single spirit center should have, when the spirit center is ready, etc., but should have a mediumistic meeting happening. And that mediumistic meeting is helping others, helping spirits, and help ourselves. We receive good communications there. So as we continue being progressing and ready for those masters, they will come, right? And we are in a moment now in our existence that we can have more and more of those lessons to us. So in the question 628, there is another interesting question related to this that says, why hasn't the truth always been with everyone's reach? And it answers that each thing must come in its own time. Truth is like light. We must accustom ourselves to it little by little. Otherwise, it dazzles us. So I love this answer because that can help us to understand why not in the first day in our existence God just come and tell everything to us, right? Why it need to be piece by piece? So it's like light. If it put everything in our hands the first day, we wouldn't know what to do with those things, right? It's like teaching something from the university to a kindergarten kid, right? Everything has time to happen, and it's really important for us to understand that. And then Kardec got another question, and that for me it's very clear that the next 10 laws that we're going to study in the next 10 weeks it was created before he had those questions about the divine law to the spirits. And they asked, Kardec asked to the spirits, saying, what do you think of the division of the natural law into 10 parts, covering the laws of worship, labor, reproduction, preservation, destruction, society, progress, equality, liberty, and lastly, the law of justice, love, and charity? And the spirit answered, the division of the God's law into 10 parts comes from Moses, and covers all the circumstances of life, which is the essential point. You may follow that division, although, like other classification systems, it does not contain anything absolute. Such systems always depend on the point of view from which a subject is considered. The last law is the most important, since through it humans can advance in the forest in the spiritual life. It sums up all of the others. So the next 10 laws that we're going to study, I think it's really, really important. It's not as different from the 10 commandments, right? And one thing that I did, when I read this question, I started, okay, so where can I find the 10 commandments in the 10 laws? And I start to matching. I read the 10 laws and start. Okay, here's the questions that related to honor your father or mother. Here's the question related to you should not kill. Thank you. So every single one of the 10 commands you can find in those 10 laws. You know, the difference is that those 10 laws bring a little bit more than the 10 commandments, right? So it gives us more than what we needed to, I don't know how many years ago, before when we were in with Abraham, right? So it's with Moses, sorry. So it's very interesting the progress that we did looking to all of that. When the 10 commandments came, Jesus, and now Spiritism. How complex all this next 10 laws will help us to understand the 10 commandments a little bit better. Why? And because we are still doing things like not kill, but in a different way, right? Through our thoughts. So the Spirit's book bring all of that to a new perspective, to a new environment, our environment today, to what we learn, what we know as of today. So we don't need that division, right? Well, let me rephrase that. We do need now, because that is the way for us to understand it. But we will get in a point that we don't have 10 different laws. We don't have 10 different commandments, right? What we have is one law, the divine law, that is in our conscience, and we just gonna need to be guided by that. We got there, and it will take a while, but we're gonna get there like Jesus did. So the next 10 weeks, I put here the 10 laws, and for me, these 10 laws is really for us to understand a little bit, just a little bit, what love means, right? Those laws is not the laws that will replace one day, the civil laws. These 10 laws will disappear as we learn, and we can live by one law, and that one law is just love. It's just the way that God wants us to connect with each other. So worship, love labor, love reproduction, love preservation, love destruction, love society, lot of progress, the equality, freedom, and just love and cheer is just, again, a way for us to understand a little bit more. Okay, so for me, the main lesson for the divine law chapter is that we need to be open a little bit more about what our instinct says to us, right? What is inside of us that telling us what's right, what is wrong. As we progress, as we learn, as we understand a little bit more, we're gonna get better and better to do the right judgment. Sometimes we're gonna do a bad judgment about, I thought it was good, but that, if you remember what I said about the being perfect, right? The good prophets are those who continue thinking about it and questioning ourselves. So today you're thinking that something is good, tomorrow you may rethink that, that was not really good, I think I should have done this and that, and that's okay. It's part of our progression, that we're gonna get there. It's just that we keep hearing a little bit our conscience and all the good spirits that are around us, right? Trying to help us, our spiritual guide. That is all the time telling us good things. And for our pride, our own reasons, we do not hear that, right? So let's be open to those things and try to think what is right or what is wrong for us. Okay. So that was it. I hope you have enjoyed, and it's a good cheese for the next 10 laws that you're gonna study in the next 10 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions, any comments? Anyone online as well?
There's people online, but no questions.
No questions or comments? Anyone here? No?
I have one comment very quick here. It may sound very complicated when we look at those things, right? It may sound very, how can I say, related to the religion or dogmas that we see in different religions. But if we give enough time, we are going to realize that those laws, which are basically very described in the Spiritist book, are related to things that happen with us every day, right? And that's the important part for us to give a little time to study. The next 10 weeks, we are not going to go in details of all of them, but we'll take a good glimpse of it, right? Just a good example, the law of reproduction, right? How many things we hear about sex? That sex is sin, sex is ugly, and we learn that sex is actually a blessing. It was created by God. And what it is, how is the right way of using that? What's the purpose? And there are things that we don't even imagine, right? The law of destruction. When we look at the world with so many catastrophes happening, where is God? Why does God allow that, right? People dying with diseases, where is God? Why that is allowed? So those are the things that actually happen in our day-to-day. And that's why we are, decided to go through those 10 laws, some detail, bringing that to our day-to-day. Just wanted to give people that view.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also thought, like what Marcio said about the 10 Commandments, that nowadays we think that's so like banal, like that's like everybody knows that we should not kill, but we don't think of the power of our minds. We don't think that we can kill someone, not physically but mentally, like sending bad thoughts or giving bad advice that will kill them like slowly. And I feel that when Jesus, Allan Kardec and all the spirits bring everything, is like, okay, you think this is, you got it, and here we go again one more time in a different wording so you can fully understand what they mean. And I think, as Marco said, we need to read all of them and try to study and put into our day-to-day lives to really understand what they are trying to bring to us. And it's not easy, because sometimes like understanding why God allows tsunamis to happen or things like that, we don't see the big picture sometimes, right? And sometimes when we say, oh yeah, God allows because that's the way that we progress, so many love comes out of that, we think that's not rational. Like, how can you believe in a God that hurts others for others to love? It's so complicated, right? So that's why I think it's so important for us to read and study. And yes.
Just want to make a comment as well. We typically tend to separate laws of physics and laws of people. The divine laws do not separate the two. They're all integrated. In many of these topics, you see that there is a physical implication and there is a moral implication. But they are not separate. It's all connected. It all sits at the end. And that's the difficulty for us, that we don't see that yet.
Exactly.
That's true.
And the other comment is, if you have a law, who's the judge?
It's God.
Well, you're going to see that from a physics perspective, a physical perspective, there is no need for a judge, because things just will happen according to the laws of physics. The most interesting in understanding Spiritism is that from the moral laws, we are our own judges. It is not God who's the judges. That's why we are unhappy when we don't follow the laws. Because in our spirit, we know that we're doing the wrong thing. We judge ourselves, we're disappointed with ourselves, and that is why we're not happy.
Yep.
Anyone else? No? Thank you, Marcio. Thank you, everyone, for participating. So we are now gonna have our passes and then prepare TSS for a lovely lunch. Are you gonna call the kids?